What's up, guys? Welcome back to Rule of Two Review. My name is Rob, and today, let's talk about the PlayStation 4, shall we? So I had initially hoped to make this video yesterday on November 15th because yesterday was officially the 1-year anniversary of the PlayStation 4's launch here in North America. Sadly, I wasn't able to do it yesterday, just a little bit too busy. So here it is, November 16th, just 1 day later. Still, it is the 1-year anniversary of the PlayStation 4, which is a pretty big deal. And so I kind of wanted to discuss my feelings on the system. I finally did manage to get one a couple of months ago, of course, so I did manage to pick up a PlayStation 4 within the first year of its launch. A lot of feelings on both sides of the coin here, and I kind of felt that it would be fun to, again, discuss my thoughts and my perception on the first year of the system, where Sony's at, where the system is at, where it could be going forward, and kind of just give it my overall grade. So, of course, I'm no real professional when it comes to this stuff. I am really just another gamer, just like you, just like a lot of other gamers out there. I'm just a fan of the hobby. I'm a fan of all the different console manufacturers. I love Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft. I'm enjoying all three systems, which I do now own. I've talked about a couple times on Rule of Two Review before. And the PlayStation 4 is kind of it's in an interesting situation as far as I'm concerned and with my gaming history. Because the PlayStation 2, it took me a long time to kind of get hip to that. And same with the PlayStation 1. I really wasn't a fan of Sony or PlayStation for most of the PlayStation 1's life cycle and a lot of the PlayStation 2's life cycle. But eventually, the PlayStation 3 is what really, really hooked me. It turned out to be my favorite system in the last generation. And even as a huge Nintendo fan first and foremost, I thought that was a pretty big deal. And PlayStation 3 was a great system. One of my favorites of all time for sure. So I had a lot of high standards coming into the PlayStation 4's launch. And it's interesting because it's done remarkably well. It's one of the fastest selling systems of all time. It's right now on pace to match or beat the Wii's last generation. And that's a big deal because the Wii very historically was the fastest selling system of all time. So it's pretty unprecedented for Sony to be doing so well right out of the gate with the PlayStation 4. Doubly so when you consider how much they struggled right out of the gate with the PlayStation 3. That poor system, which I love to death, had a horrible start, a horrible launch, and a horrible first couple of years. But, of course, as we know, they eventually turned it all around. And again, look at what happened with the PlayStation 4. They've done amazing things with it since it first launched. And so, as a Sony fan, when I look at the PlayStation 4 and how it's done within this first year, I guess overall, it's done okay. That's really all I can say is that as far as the gaming front, we're going to remove the business side of things for a moment, okay? And as far as the gaming perspective and as a gaming console and what it's offering to gamers, it's just okay. That's probably what I can say is the most disappointing thing about it. As somebody who does now, like I said, own all three consoles. I do have a gaming PC, but that's irrelevant here. I own all three consoles, and as somebody who enjoyed the PlayStation 3 the most last generation, right now, early on into this 8th gen, it is my least favorite of the three. Obviously, I've been loving the Wii U as a huge Nintendo fan. The Xbox One was a system I didn't really anticipate liking a whole lot, but I've had mine for a couple weeks now, and it has surprised me how much I love the system. It's my favorite control. Well, the gamepad is my favorite controller for the Wii U, but as far as the two traditional controllers, PS4 and Xbox One, the Xbox One's controller is my favorite preferred controller. I love the UI and the interface. I love how the kind of Windows 8 sort of format of its home menus operates. I like it much better than the 360s, and just overall much more than I would have anticipated. I think it works fantastically, and I really enjoyed how that's operating. And so, in that respect, my PlayStation 4 has just seemed less impressive. When the real thing that you kind of have to dissect when looking at the PlayStation 4's first year is the games, and honestly, the game library is not impressive. I admit that Infamous Second Son, the only real exclusive of note within this first year, is a game that I do want to play and looks pretty darn good, and I have not yet played it. So there's one game for the PlayStation 4 that looks really good that I haven't played. Other than that, the only thing that is exciting to me when it comes to the PlayStation 4, there's Little Big Planet 3 in a couple of days. So that is huge. That is massive to me personally. So that is going to help the systems in the way the system is perceived in my eyes immensely. But that is the only exclusive of note that has any sort of bearing to me in my gaming life and my fanship of the PlayStation brand. So there's that. Everything else, it's all multiplats, man. There are some great games that I'm looking at probably picking up on the PlayStation 4, but every single one, with the exception of Little Big Planet 3 and Bloodborne, which has now been delayed another month to March 2015, so many months away. Those are the only exclusive of note that has any sort of bearing on the PlayStation 4 and any value for the system right now. So yes, I'm playing Destiny on that system. Yes, I'm playing The Evil Within and Call of Duty on that system, you know, the PS4, but okay, I could play those on myriad other options as well. So they're great games, and I love that I can play them on my PlayStation 4, but I don't have to play them on my PlayStation 4. And to me, and this is just me, not everyone views it this way, and that's okay, but this is how I view it. To me, that just holds less weight. And that's not selling the value to the PlayStation 4. That's selling the value to the Call of Duty brand, because that's just a great game, and to Destiny and to Bungie, because that's just a great game. So I love these games, but not because of Sony or the PlayStation. And that's why I think, yes, you need to have a third-party multi-platform library on your system, but I don't think that it really speaks volumes about your system's worth and value. It's the exclusives that do. That's just my personal perception of consoles and the gaming market. That's how I look at things. That's what excites me the most. So that's definitely a disappointing thing. I mean, a lot of people can say, oh, I have all these games for my PlayStation 4 and yada yada, and it's like, okay, that's great. You've got probably a lot of indie titles, some really great ones. I'm not going to bash them, but you've got some indie titles, probably some things you've just downloaded to your system you bought from PSN. Okay, whatever. Not really exciting to me. And you've got a bunch of multi-platform stuff, you know, like, that's great. I mean, good games are good games, but it's not like the PlayStation 4 is the place to game just because you have all these multi-platform games. So, you know, to me, that's the biggest downside to this first year of the PlayStation 4. Now, it should be noted that, I've brought this up many times in the past, I am a huge fan of Sony's first-party content and of their exclusive content. So we know those things are going to be coming eventually, starting with Little Big Planet in a couple of days. So I feel like hopefully by next Christmas, literally 1 year from now, that Sony will have some really good games coming out that are exclusive to the system, you know. The Order 1866 or 86, I always forget. I think it's 1886. The Order 1886 is a weird one because that could turn out to be pretty good, but right now I'm just not quite sure. So that one remains to be seen, but it is a pretty high-profile exclusive that's on the docket fairly soon. So that kind of counts in this conversation. So I got to give them that at least. But I really just hope that within this next year, they can really get these exclusives coming, you know. We know that they have things like Little Big Planet's coming. They've got God of War. They've got Uncharted. Like, those are two games. Bring those out. Uncharted 4 is expected next Christmas. Let's hope it sticks to that date because that is going to be an amazing game, and a really, really exciting title for PlayStation 4 fans. And if we really get a freaking God of War, please show us you're making a new God of War. Don't be stupid. Make that game. You know, these are the things that we need to see to really justify the PlayStation 4's price and its success. And so the success, quote unquote, is the other big piece to this. Whereas you could say Sony and the PlayStation 4 has become disappointing in the games and the library market, what you can't say is that they've been disappointing in the sales aspect because, as I mentioned earlier in this video, it is one of the most successful systems of all time. They are well over 10 million units. I think they're closing in on 12 or 13 million units right now within that first year. Like I said, on pace to be one of the fastest selling, if not the fastest selling console of all time. And regardless of the fact that I think that there's no reason to justify this kind of massive success, you got to give it to them. I give it to them. I love Sony, so I want them to see success, so I'm happy to see their success, even if it makes no flipping sense in my mind. So congratulations to Sony. I'm glad to see this, especially with how they fumbled out of the gate with the PS3, you know, a great system that took forever to really catch on. I'm glad to see that they could turn things around. I think that they are completely riding hype and buzz right now. It's the hype from their first PS4 press conference where they stuck it to Microsoft. I think they're still riding that. And other than that, I mean, I really don't know why so many people are buying PlayStation 4s. But, you know, hey, despite the fact that it makes no sense, like I said, I'm still very glad for them. So the fact that they're doing so well is a huge bullet point to the success of their first year and to what I'm looking at personally when grading this first year of Sony. I mean, you can't argue with, 11, 12, 13 million units in this first year. And the fact that they can do it with so little content to play and to be excited over kind of makes it even more impressive. So that's another kudos to Sony, and it really does kind of make me wonder what's going to happen when they finally do get really good content out. What happens when Uncharted and God of War and any other surprise exclusives come out and those are available for the system? I mean, it could be selling even more. You have to think that Without content, the system is breaking records. So if it's only going to sell more once good content comes out, it really is probably going to have a lock on this generation. So Sony might finally have the lead on a generation for the first time in a while, because the PS2, I mean, that was a early 2000s console. So it's been 10 years since that thing was dominating for Sony. And so right now they have the market lead for the first time in a long time. And I'm really happy for them, you know, so congratulations to Sony. That's a huge, huge kudos you guys have going on. And it's, you know, again, it's a huge bullet point when it comes to grading the console and where Sony, I think, is going right now with the PlayStation 4 and for this entire 8th generation. So with all of these facts in place and all these different ideas and aspects to look at when, you know, kind of grading this first year for Sony and for the PlayStation 4, it's interesting because there's the huge negative of no games, which I think is the most important thing. But then there's also the fact that they've just done so remarkably well and they've sold so well, and that counts. So if I was to have to, again, not as a professional, quote unquote, I'm just a gamer and a fan. If I was to grade them based on the negatives of no real games anytime soon and also the positive of the amazing sales that they've had, I think I'm going to have to give them an overall grade of a B-. Part of me wanted to go C or C+ just because of the lack of games, because I think the lack of games speaks louder than the strong sales as a gamer. Now, if I was an industry analyst, it would be totally different and I'd be talking more about the sales. But honestly, as a gamer, I'm happy for the sales, but I don't give as much of a shit. It's more the games that are important to me and the value of a system and a console. The console isn't doing anything new and it doesn't have a lot of great games to play right now, but you know, I believe in Sony, and I know that they're going to have great games coming, so that's why I'm sort of giving them a boost here. And again, I'm still going to count the fact that they've done so well in the sales department, especially without great games. So, you know, that's a great thing for them, and I'm glad to see their success. So overall, I think a B- is a pretty fair and accurate way for me to personally give a grade to Sony in this first year of the PlayStation 4. Okay, so those are my thoughts and my kind of feelings on the grade for the first year of Sony and the PlayStation 4. Very interesting thing to kind of pick apart, so I'll be very curious to hear your guys' thoughts down below in the comments. And of course, take a look, keep a lookout for next week. November 21st, if I remember correctly, is going to be the 1-year anniversary of the Xbox One. So I'm really excited to kind of do the same thing. If you're going to be interested, keep an eye out for that, because I will be very happy to talk about what I think the Xbox One has done in the first year. There's a lot more to talk about when it comes to Microsoft and the Xbox, so I anticipate it being a longer, more in-depth kind of video and review of this first year for them. And, you know, on the 18th, it's the 2-year anniversary of the Wii U. I may or may not do one for that. It is my favorite system, so of course I love talking about Nintendo. But because it's the 2-year anniversary and because it didn't come out the same time as the other two, it's kind of more fun to talk about the Sony versus Microsoft aspect. They're very similar systems with similar libraries, and they came out at the exact same time. So it's very interesting to do so. So I don't know, if you guys want to hear me do a 2-year report card for the Wii U, I certainly will. But right now, I'm doing this for the Sony, for the PlayStation 4, and next week I'll do one for the Xbox One. So keep an eye out for that. Hopefully you dug this video. Again, please talk about the PlayStation 4, what you think it's done within this first year down below. Feel free to subscribe to Rule of Two Review, like and share the video, and I, of course, will catch you guys on the next video.